Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Alex Jackson? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Alexander Ken Jackson was born on September 20, 2000, and initially lived in Oregon. He went by the name Alex. In 2011, the Jackson family moved to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Alex, his father Jan, his mother Melissa, and his younger sister Sabrina lived at 4414 Oak Leaf Court, Northeast. This 3,400 square foot, 5-bedroom house cost just under $400,000. In 2017, Alex became an Eagle Scout. As part of a charitable project, he restored a house for low-income families. In 2019, he graduated from high school. Alex, along with his sister, attended the University of Iowa in Iowa City. This is about a 31-mile drive to the south of the Jackson family house. During his junior year, Alex started having academic difficulties. He had failing grades in multiple courses. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On June 15, 2021, Alex Jackson called 911 at 8:21 a.m. He reported that someone had broken into his house. This intruder shot him and a family member. When the police arrived, they found Alex's 61-year-old father, Jan Perry Jackson, dead on the floor in the living room of the finished basement. He had been shot 5 times, twice in the head, twice in the chest, and once in the neck. Next, the police noticed Alex in a basement hallway about 10 feet from his father. He had sustained a single gunshot wound to the foot. Alex repeated his story that an intruder was responsible for the shootings. In a bedroom right next to where Alex was, the police found his 19-year-old sister, Sabrina Hannah Jackson, dead in her bed. She sustained 2 gunshot wounds, one to the head and one to the torso. Her body was under the covers as if she had been sleeping when she was killed. Alex's 68-year-old mother, Melissa Fern Jackson, was found dead in the master bedroom on the first floor with 2 gunshot wounds to the head. It appeared as though she had been shot in her bed and rolled off to the right side onto the floor. There were bullet holes in the headboard and in the pillow. All the injuries sustained by the members of the Jackson family had been inflicted by a Browning SA .22 caliber semi-automatic rifle, which was owned by Jan Jackson. Alex was transported to a hospital. After receiving treatment, which included being administered the drug fentanyl, the police interviewed him for 4 hours. Alex indicated that he and his family members had watched a movie the night before the shooting. He and his father had cleaned the Browning rifle because the last time they used it, the gun had malfunctioned. His father left the rifle on the fireplace. At about 8 a.m. on the day of the murders, Alex was sleeping on the screened-in porch. He woke up after hearing about 10 gunshots. After running downstairs into the finished basement, he saw an intruder standing there, and his father was on the floor. The intruder wrestled with Alex for control of the Browning rifle. During the struggle, Alex was shot in the foot. He had initially claimed the intruder shot him, but now he wasn't so sure. Alex may have been the one who pulled the trigger. After this, the intruder exited through the back door of the finished basement. In order to call 911, Alex crawled back to his bedroom in the basement to retrieve his cell phone. He used a belt as a tourniquet to slow the bleeding from the injury to his foot. He could see that his sister was in her bed because her door was open, but he did not realize she had been killed. Alex described the intruder as a black man wearing a ski mask, black clothing, gloves, and green shoes. He had no idea who the individual was. Investigators expressed doubt regarding Alex's story of a mysterious intruder. They couldn't find any evidence of a break-in. Furthermore, it seemed strange that some random intruder would use a rifle owned by Alex's father to kill the victims. Why didn't the intruder bring his own weapon? How did he know there would be a rifle available? Despite being confronted with the implausibility of his story, Alex never wavered. He maintained his innocence and did not back away from his story. After being released from the hospital, investigators interviewed Alex again in a police station. He continued to deny involvement in the murders. Alex was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. On January 25, 2023, Alex Jackson was found guilty of all charges. On March 3 of that same year, he was sentenced to 3 consecutive terms of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now moving to my analysis. Alex Jackson maintains his innocence. His defense argued that there was no evidence disproving the presence of an intruder. There was no reason to believe that Alex was lying. The state, of course, disagreed. They argued that the physical evidence against Alex was overwhelming. This brings me to the question, was Alex guilty of murdering his family? Let's take a look at the evidence, both for and against the idea that he was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. At the time of the murders, Alex was struggling academically in college. He was concerned that his father was going to kick him out of the house if he did not get a job. Alex was not prepared for living on his own. He only had about $30 to his name. At 6 a.m. on the day of the murders, Alex's cell phone connected to social media. Alex was supposed to be asleep at this time, according to his story. He had no explanation for why his phone was active. The intruder story was difficult to believe for a number of reasons. There was no evidence of forced entry anywhere in the house, including the back door where the intruder supposedly entered. Nothing was missing from the house. Surveillance cameras on the front and back of the Jackson house did not show anyone entering or exiting during the time of the attack. Surveillance video from a camera mounted on the front of a neighbor's house across the street also failed to capture a mysterious intruder. Construction workers were at a next-door neighbor's house on the day of the shooting. They had been working since 8 a.m. They didn't see anybody enter or exit the Jackson house. Why would an intruder enter the Jackson house without carrying his own weapon? The box the rifle was normally stored in was found under Alex's bed, yet Alex mentioned how his father had left the rifle on the fireplace. Conveniently, the rifle was in a different place than it was normally stored, a place where an intruder could easily see it and retrieve it. It also seems convenient that Alex was sleeping on a screened-in porch on the first floor, therefore had to go downstairs to confront the intruder. His bedroom was in the finished basement. That is where he should have been sleeping. If an intruder had murdered Jan and decided to kill Sabrina because she was also in the finished basement, why did he go to the master bedroom on the first floor to kill Melissa? He went upstairs after committing 2 murders. Why not just leave? How would he have known that Melissa was up there? Based on Alex's story, the intruder immediately fled after shooting him in the foot, which means the intruder must have already killed Melissa on the first floor. If this was the case, how did Alex catch up with the intruder in the finished basement? One would think that after killing Melissa, the intruder would have left. It doesn't make sense that the intruder would kill 3 people and not kill Alex. With Alex wounded, the intruder should have been able to kill him easily. So this intruder was okay with murdering 3 people, but 4 is where he drew the line. He was thinking something like, I may be the type of person to kill 3 people, but 4 people? Well, that's just ridiculous. Only a monster would do that. Blood spatter found near Alex's bed indicated that his foot had been shot there, not in the living room where he claimed the struggle with the intruder occurred. The Browning rifle had to be reloaded at least 1 time to fire all the rounds discharged during the attack. This particular rifle had a tubular magazine in the stock, which is not as common as a detachable magazine, or even a tubular magazine mounted under the barrel. The firearm expert for the police could not figure out how to load it. He had to watch a video tutorial online. In reality, any firearm expert should know how to load a tubular magazine in the stock of a rifle. But the state still makes a good point here. What are the chances an intruder would know how to load this particular weapon and take the time to do it? It doesn't load quickly like a firearm with a detachable magazine. Also, how did the intruder find additional cartridges for the rifle? Investigators found palm prints from both of Alex's hands on the Browning rifle. Alex mentioned that he and his father had just cleaned the rifle. It seems awfully convenient that Alex was handling the murder weapon right before the murders. Moving to the exculpatory factors, many people who knew Alex did not think he was a troublemaker. A former scout leader said that Alex had never been violent. He was so trusted that he was allowed to mentor younger scouts. A former band leader said that Alex was a very polite, hard worker who always wanted to do well. A mental health expert for the defense implied that for Alex to be the killer, he would have to be a psychopath. It was hard to believe that he was a psychopath because Alex had no history consistent with psychopathy. For example, he did not violate societal norms, he did not have a criminal record, he never set fires, and he never harmed animals. There was no reason to believe he was psychopathic. The clinician did not think that Alex could have flown under the radar for that long. Someone would have been able to identify the psychopathic traits. These traits would have been alarming to people. Alex's story about the intruder is hard to believe, but technically, it could be true. Maybe something was wrong with the camera in the back of the house, which caused it to fail that day. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I think that Alex Jackson was guilty of the murders? Yes, in my opinion, he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Alex was self-centered, impulsive, irresponsible, immature, cold, callous, greedy, deceptive, and had a sense of entitlement. There is no evidence that his family members or anyone else thought of him as psychopathic, but these traits are consistent with the type of crime he committed. Maybe his family members never noticed, dismissed concerns about his behavior, or they were ashamed. Sometimes in families, people have a way of focusing just on themselves. They don't necessarily worry about the behavior of others. Alex was able to slip under the radar until his grades in college plummeted. Perhaps motivated by a fear of being kicked out of the house, Alex decided to kill his family. It's likely that his main mission was to eliminate one person, his father, but Alex killed his mother and his sister to inherit his family's estate and to avoid leaving witnesses behind. It's also possible that he wanted to wipe out his entire family from the beginning. For example, his mother and his sister both sustained a gunshot wound to the eye. This indicates a high level of depravity, hatred, and anger in the shooter. Alex recognized that the shooting would look suspicious, so he planned on blaming a mysterious intruder. He could have taken steps to make his story more believable. For example, Alex could have disabled the surveillance cameras months in advance, broken the back door, broken a window not covered by a camera, or disposed of the murder weapon. Instead, he focused his attention on the narrative that he was shot in the foot during the struggle with the intruder. Either the intruder shot him or he accidentally shot himself. This one element would make everyone believe his story. As an extremely self-centered individual, Alex did not appreciate how other people were not necessarily self-centered like him. From his point of view, no one could ever imagine that he would injure himself. Why would somebody do that? It must have been an intruder. His obsession with himself led Alex to overvalue the believability of the self-injury narrative. On the morning of the murders, Alex retrieved the rifle. He probably killed his father first because his father would have been the greatest physical threat. He then killed his sister and his mother. After wounding himself, Alex called the police and lied. Many killers his age would have confessed, but Alex has always maintained the same story. He made a commitment to himself in the beginning never to tell the truth. During his interview with the police in the hospital, Alex made one comment which may have given him away. When talking about the wound to his foot, he said, "I thought it would hurt more." This may not mean anything, but it seems like a strange comment, almost as if, just for a moment, Alex wanted to brag about pulling off the perfect family annihilation. He desperately wanted to tell someone about his achievement, not to alleviate shame, rather to gain admiration. Now moving to my final thoughts. The act of killing one's entire family is consistent with a lack of empathy. This deficit meant that Alex could not understand, or was unwilling to understand, how people would perceive him. He believed that he could manipulate everyone with a dramatic and fanciful tale about a mysterious intruder. One could argue that, both literally and figuratively, Alex shot himself in the foot. Those are my thoughts in the case of Alex Jackson. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They consistently generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.